big page all about knobs. Hello and welcome to my overview of all of the changes in the brand new Beast Snagger Orcs Army Set Codex. The 9th edition Orc Codex is going to be pretty much exactly the same as this book, you know, with a different cover. And seeing as I have this box set and I unbox and review Warhammer products on my channel, I thought it'd only be fair for me to do a comparison between the 9th edition Codex and the 8th edition. There have been a few years that have passed since the 8th edition Orc Codex. 3 in fact. This codex came out in 2018, and of course the new one has just come out this past week. A really interesting point to make about both these codexes is that they both contain exactly the same number of pages, 136 pages each. The new codex is slightly larger in page size, both in height and width. And most likely the new codex is going to cost you £30 as opposed to the older codex, which I think was about £25. £30 is the new sort of standard for these. Throughout all of this comparison video, the new codex will be on the right side and the older codex will be on the left. So straight away, let's have a look inside both of these books. You've got a different kind of cover art. This is reminiscent for most of the new codexes, whereas the Orc 8th edition gets its unique sort of artwork. Then you've got slightly different looking first page. The contents again is slightly different. This seems a bit more squashed. This seems like it's got a nice space, you know, between, and then you've got the introduction there. I like the picture first, and then the font, and then you've got two awesome looking bits of artwork. I did wonder where that artwork came from, but it's in this book as well. Now it says the Barbarous Hordes, and then this says Might Makes Right. The Green Menace, the Power of War. The Old Ways, Green Skin Culture, Orky Whatnots, Nature of the Beast, the Orc Gods, Tribes and Clans, the Goth Clan, Tribes, Wars and Warbands. And then you've got that big bit of artwork that we saw before, and then you've got all the other clans in the old codex, but this one starts off with Ghazghkull Thraka, the new one. That continues with the clans, and then all the orc glyphs. This one then, it's an odd one, the new one, because it goes on to talk about the different clans, but also different war bosses and units within this section. So look, you've got the Evil Sons clan, you've got Bad Moon's clan, you've got the Blood Axes and the boss Snikrot. This one you've got the Greenskin expansion. And then, yeah, it goes through the different clans and the named characters, like the Great White Squig, you know, Moz, Rog, Scragbad on the Monster Eater. You've got Freebooters, Captain Badrock, and then a little look at orcs and some pictures of them. Some of the new models as well, like the Squig Rig, and here, like the Pain Boss and the Grot Orderly. I do think that these new codexes do focus on a lot of the new models. Well, you've got some older models dotted about, like the Death Dreads and the Gorkanauts. But there's a new model there with Ghazghkull. The Mega-Nobs came out, I would say 5-6 years ago now, and then you've got a big picture there. And then you're into the rules. It starts off with the Combat Patrol. If you weren't already aware, this is going to be the contents of the new Combat Patrol. Let me just zoom in there for you so you get a better look. I've showed this in all of the live streams and my videos of this book, but you're going to get 3 Death Copters, a Death Dread, 2 units of brand new Orc Boys and a brand new Orc War Boss in Mega Armor. It's going to be the best and most popular combat patrol, I think. It shows that Games Workshop can include new models and new units in their combat patrols if they choose. And then it goes on to the rules and the Battleforge rules and things like that. But look how much more content the old 8th edition codex has got. It's got the timeline, you know, 4 pages of timeline. It's got some more art, but then it goes into the units themselves individually, like individual pages for them. So you've got knobs and mega knobs, nice big page all about knobs. What more can you ask for? You've got the war bosses, you've got pain boys, mechaniacs, you've got the weird boys, the boys. You know, this is what is missing in these 9th edition codexes. All of this extra content. I really like when they spend the time per page going through a unit. I think it gives so much backstory and things to them, and fleshes them out. So look, you got battle wagons, war bikes, death copters, all, you know, the different buggies. You know, you got a page per kind of new buggy. Look at that, there's like 6 of them there. You got the different jets. I mean, that's fine that's got all of them in a couple of pages. You got mech guns. You've just got a page just dedicated for mech guns. Gretchen and runt herds. Death dreads, killer cans. I mean, even if this is just copy and paste and they put it in the new 9th edition codex, it's still fantastic, because anybody starting 9th edition is totally going to miss out on all this, you know, and that's a shame. I always say time and time again that all the rules in there should be for free, like all the data sheets, but all of this stuff should be included. Look, you've got a page just for stompers, the different bosses, look, and the commandos, Gazgul, Mad Doc. So yeah, you've got a lot of pages there. That is 69, 70 pages. Well, it's 69 pages of lore and unit information. It's just fantastic having all that. And here, literally, we have stopped on page. Well, I'm not going to include those pictures there. We're going to stop on page 35. So yeah, you can say half the amount of content, kind of lore wise and unit information wise. Then you've got some pictures. I must say, more pictures there of all the units. You've got there's a start collecting box set. Then you've got another example of them, and then you've got a big warband, which they don't do in the new codex anymore. It's such a shame. I always got a lot of inspiration from the big army, like the smaller army, like the start collecting, and then a big army so I could flesh out my units, but that's just missing. Then it goes straight into the Orc war gear lists and all the data sheet. Whereas this book, it contains the Battleforge rules, all the Orc clans. I think that's quite cool that they're separated and they've all got their unique abilities, so you can put them in different clans. But again, it's slightly odd that they've got them smaller Orc clans, and then you've got, you know, snake bites, death skulls, blood axes and freebooters, rather than having like goths as a full page. And, you know, I would have liked a page per clan. That would have been fantastic. You've got specialist mobs as well. This is great because it goes, you know, if it's Battleforged, then you've got specific mobs that can do certain things. You've got custom jobs, so you can give your vehicles custom jobs, you can give your big stompers and Gorkanauts custom jobs. You've got all your stratagems, yeah, 3 pages of them. You've got the warlord traits, you've got the power of the wild discipline, the beast head discipline. You've got your relics and chapter approved rules, your crusade rules, which goes on for 4, 6, 8, and then a little bit about Crusade Army. So yeah, 8 pages there of Crusade stuff. Then you go onto your data sheets. A couple of new rules here. We've still got Here We Go, where you can re-roll charge rolls made for units with this ability. You've got Ramshackle. One where if it's a strength of 8 or more, you subtract from the 1 damage characteristic, which is quite nice. You've got the mob rule, where if the unit is within 6 inches of friendly mob units that's not under half strength, the unit is never considered to be under half strength. And then the Beast Snagger rule, which is probably one of the most interesting ones out of the whole thing and the newest. Each time a model with this ability makes an attack that targets a vehicle or monster, you add 1 to that attack's hit roll. And also every model in this unit has a 6+ invulnerable save. So all your Beast Snaggers and things are getting invulnerable saves. There is a new rule called Dakka. What that means is the weapon profile has 2 values for the number of attacks they make. The first value is when the target is within half of the weapon's range, and the second value is if it's not within half range. So it's a little bit like rapid fire, but instead of like trying to work it out as, oh, 24 inches is 1 shot and 12 inches is 2, it actually shows you. There's no penalty for moving and firing those, so they can go ahead and it actually encourages you. Even though ballistic skill 5, most of the Orc army, it encourages you to get in closer because you're going to get more shots, more chance of hitting things, which is great. And then we go on to the data sheet. So this is going to be quite an exhaustive list of all the changes in here. So you've got Ghazghkull Thraka. On the whole, he's been made better, but he now kind of counts as a monster, but also sort of like a vehicle in that the number of wounds he's got affects the rest of his stat line. He gets weaker and slower, but the number of attacks he gets actually increases, which is quite cool. But yeah, he has been made stronger at strength 7 and tougher at toughness, but he's still got his 2+ save, and he's got this Prophet of Gork and Mork, which is the 4+ invulnerable. Also, as part of the Prophet of Gork and Mork rule, he's got an additional rule, which means that he can only have a maximum of 4 wounds lost in each phase, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think he was like one of the first models, I think he was one of the first units to have that. The fact that he can only use a maximum of 4 per phase, which means he is going to be surviving 3 wounds, even if you're going to be throwing everything you possibly can at him, which is great. You've got Makari. The big change here is his suspiciously lucky, and I think this is terrible that they've changed this. Is he gets a normal 2+ invulnerable save, but if he fails that, then he loses the ability for the rest of the battle. I think he should have just had 2+ invulnerable throughout the whole thing, regardless. But there we go. So you don't have that in the previous codex, although Ghazghkull and Makari had their newer rules in the Psychic Awakening War of the Beast, I think it was. Yeah, I think so. Then in the old book they talk about the war bus, but the new book they talk about the big mech with custom force field and then a big mech with shock attack gun. Interesting that they've gone straight to the big mechs. Compared to these, it's odd because they never had a big mech with custom force field. They just had a big mech in Mega Armor which could take a custom force field. So now it's a complete separate entry. It is a little bit cheaper. He has been made tougher. I think all the orcs have been made tougher with the toughness 5. And his ballistic skill has been increased to a 4+, which is unheard of for orcs. But that seems to be the case for the normal big mechs as well. But this big mech with shock attack gun is actually gone up in price. His power point 6 instead of the 4. But again, he's had a bump up to the number through his toughness, his number of wounds, and the shock attack gun has changed somewhat. It's still a nice 60-inch range weapon, but the strength, you're rolling 2d6, and on an 11+, you're inflicting d3 mortal wounds in addition to any damage. So works very, very similar to the way it did before. They've just moved the sort of profiles around. Then you've got the war boss, and if we compare the war boss from the old codex, it is a little bit more expensive, but he has been given a buff in terms of that toughness 6, and he's been given an extra attack And of course his weapons have changed slightly. You know, the shooter has the Dakar rule. Rockets now have a different profile. Instead of Assault 1, which you know nearly always missed, you've now got the potential of getting 3 shots, and they are blast, which is fantastic. The attack squig works the way it did before, but a little alteration in terms of no more than 2 attacks can be made with it. And the Power Claw, instead of it having a damage D3, it's now got a straight up damage of 2. The big chopper works, you know, the same as it did before as well. Then they're talking about the war boss in Mega Armor. So they didn't have a war boss in Mega Armor at all in the old codex. They just had Big Mech in Mega Armor that you could, you know, have as your war boss, I guess. But now they've got a specific one, and they've got a brand new model for him. Looks fantastic. He's got this big shooter that's on the top of his armor, and the Grot Gunner adds 1 to his hit roll, so he is going to be hitting on a 4+ with that big shooter, and it is a Dakar 5 weapon at 36-inch range. So that's very, very nice. And he's got this new weapon called the Ooge Chopper. I don't think I've ever seen an Ooge Chopper. I've never seen an Ooge Chopper in, you know, the 8th edition book, but this Ooge Chopper is kind of like a Power Fist in a way, with a very nice armor penetration. It pluses the strength by 3, so you've got a strength 9, AP -3, damage 2 weapon with no handicap to it being able to hit. So you're going to be hitting 2 pluses with the 5 attacks on a strength 9. This guy is awesome. Maybe he's OP, but you're paying for that with your power points cost of a 6. You've got a Weird Boy here. The Weird Boy is here in the 8th edition codex. The Weird Boy, he's been given a bump up in toughness and the number of wounds. He is a psyker, and there are, you know, different proper psychic powers this time round, so we can and the psychic powers have changed somewhat too, but you're paying for that because it's a little bit more expensive. You've then got a Big Mech in Mega Armor, so similar to the old codex, but look, as you can see, a lot more going on there. You've got your Teleport Blaster, which I do believe has become, I want to say, better, because it's Assault D6. That's better than Assault 3, because you can potentially get another 3 shots from it, but it's still the same very short range, but it does have the blast weaponry now, and it does have damage 3 as well. The custom Mega Blaster has had an increase because it used to be Assault 1, but it's now Assault D3. And it's been given the blast rule, believe it or not. And of course it's still got the kind of overheat plasma rule, where if you roll a 1, the bearer's going to suffer a mortal wound. Still got the Grot Oiler, still got the custom force field. Again, slightly odd, because you've got a Big Mech with custom force field in the new book, but then you've also got a Big Mech in Mega Armor with a custom force field as well. You've then got boss Snikrot, which is in the old codex. He's been given a slight buff with the toughness, and his abilities are very, very similar. If anything, he's been given a buff with this new invulnerable save that orcs have got now. If they're dead tough, then they have a 5+ invulnerable save. So that's their new invulnerable save sort of system, just if they're dead tough. You've got boss Zagstruck, which is right here as well. Been given a massive buff. He's now a toughness 6, and he used to be a toughness 4. He's still got the cyborg body. He's still got Drill Boss and Storm Boys Strike. You've got the Death Killer War Trike, which is right here. Same power points cost, same stat line. It's been given dead tough, so that's invulnerable save as well. Got the Fuel Mixer Grot, got the big red button, got the new Ramshackle rule, and the Flamers in this have been given a buff. This Killer Jet Burner's got a 12-inch range now, and it used to only have an 8-inch, which is great. The Snagger Claw has had, I'd say, somewhat of a buff. It's now a solid damage 2 as well. And unfortunately, the Snagger Claw has lost its shooting ability. Before, it just had a little like Assault 1, Strength 4 profile, but now it doesn't have that. You've got Captain Badrook, which is right here. He's had a big buff. You've now got toughness 6, and he only had a toughness 4 before, and you're getting an extra attack with 5 attacks as opposed to 4. His ranged weapon, the Ripper, works exactly the same as it did before, but instead of him having a 5+ invulnerable save because of his armour, he's now got an amazing 4+ invulnerable save. So yeah, worth picking him up with your flash kits. Then you've got a new character, the Zod Grod Wertznagger, who I've just recently reviewed. Nice, cheap HQ unit if you wanted to run Gretchen, and the melee weapon is still pretty nice. The only downside is obviously, you know, he's not the best in combat. The only downside to him really is his 6+ save. Another new unit, the Beast Boss here. Similar to a War Boss, he's got the 666s, the Strength 6, the Toughness 6 and the 6 wounds. Super. Why would you pick him? Because he's got this Beast Snagger Claw. Plus is his strength by 4, so he's hitting on a strength 10, AP -3 and a damage of 2, but you are going to have to remove 1 when you go to attack. He's also got a Beast Chopper, which is that big blade, and if you're using that, you can have an additional attack. He's also dead tough. He's got the 5+ invulnerable save, and he's got the Beast Snagger rule. So if he's attacking monsters and vehicles, I'd definitely throw him out of vehicle. You're going to be adding 1 to the attack hit roll anyway, so they kind of cancel each other out if you're going against monsters and vehicles. You've got a Beast Boss and Squigosaur, which is a brand new unit. I can't wait to pick him up. It looks fantastic. It's got good movement speed, very tough at toughness 7, got a huge number of wounds of 9, 4+ normal save and a 5+ invulnerable, and you're subtracting 1 from the damage characteristic as well. You can also give him a thump gun. You've got the Pain Boss, again, another new unit. Think of a Pain Boy, but an actual HQ unit this time. Again, and also it's got one of these Beast Snagger claws, which is the same as the Beast Boss. He's got the Grot Orderly, and any models within 3 inches of him, he can ignore wounds on a 6, and he can also restore 2 lost wounds each per turn. But it's got to be Beast Snagger or Beast Snagger Cavalry. So he could be near the Beast Boss. It's a shame that you can't really put him near, you know, Gazgul and, you know, restore those 2 wounds each time. But, you know, at least you've got a Pain Boss. But at least you've got a Pain Boy for that if you want to use that. You've got a Werboy, another new unit. I mean, how many new units have we got now? Look at that. We've got a whole page full of new units, and then another 2 new units. This Werboy, kind of like a Psyker. In fact, he is a Psyker, but for the Beast Snaggers. So he's got the Beast Snagger rule. If there's more orcs around him, he can manifest an additional psychic power in the psychic phase. Unfortunately, he hasn't got an amazing rule where if there's like 30, then he just goes pop because the psychic because the psychic presence is just so overwhelming for him. But there we go, nice little cheap unit as well. Nice little cheap unit. And then you've got one of my favourite units in the whole book, Mozrog Scragbad. The Great White Squig. Wow, what more can I say? This guy is incredible. He's got a decent movement speed, he's got very good weapon skill, ballistic skill, let's ignore that. He's got a good strength, good toughness, 9 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 8 and a save of 3+. He's got the thump gun, which we all know that's the new like grenade launcher at the moment. He's got the Big Chomper's claws. He's got the Big Chomper's jaws, strength 7, AP -3, damage 3, and also he's getting 3 additional attacks with this weapon, and no more than 3 attacks can be made with this weapon, so you're only getting the 3 attacks with it. Unmodified wound rolls of 6s, inflicts 4 mortal wounds on the target, and the attack sequence ends. So you're getting 3 attacks with it. If they're wounding on 6s, then you're just going to outright chomp that Primaris Lieutenant up, aren't you? Let's face it. He's got a number of decent rules, especially if you put him in the Snakebite clan as well. You know, you've got the Beast Snagger, you've got Here We Go, War. He's got a 4+ invulnerable, so probably one of the best units with a 3+ normal and a 4+ invulnerable. You're removing because of his thick hide, you're removing the damage. You're removing 1 from the damage characteristic, and when you've got friendly Snakebite Beast Snagger core or Snagger characters within 6 inches of him, you're adding 1 to the attack's hit rolls as well. Then we go on to Gretchen. Even Gretchen have become tougher. They are now a toughness 3. However, they're pretty much not getting a save. They're only getting a save of 7+. And they no longer have the surprisingly dangerous in large numbers rule, which is a bit of a shame. Now, Orc Boys, which is probably one of the reasons why you're here. They are more expensive, but they have had a bit of a buff. Their toughness is now 5. And of course, they've still got access to all the weapons with slightly different rules, like the Daka rule and the rocket launchers having heavy D3. These are the new boys on the block, the Snaggas boys. They have the same toughness as the new boys, but they have a better strength. They have strength 5, but everything else is pretty much the same. You can only take 20 of them as opposed to 30 normal boys, and they only have access to that thump gun. No rocket launchers, no big shooters, anything like that. Then a strange one, but you've got a knob with a war banner. A strange one to start off with, just having the knob there with the war banner. You do have a knob in the 8th edition book. Bit of a downgrade in a way. He can still use the war banner as a weapon, which is strength 7, and he's now got a toughness 5 instead of the toughness 4. But he does miss out on the keep in order rule, but he does have the war banner rule. Then you've got a pain boy. And this is odd, having the pain boy in front of Mad Doc Grotznick. But the pain boy is a little bit more pricey, but he's got a toughness 5 now. And he's got a way better leadership. He's got a leadership of 8 instead of it being 6. He's got the Sawbones rules, he's got the Doc's tools, and he can take a Grot orderly as well. He's got the Power Claw and he's got the Urty Syringe. Then you've got Mad Doc Grotznick, which you've got, right there. He is the same power points cost, but has got exactly the same stat line. He used to be a toughness 5 anyway, but again, he's got the Power Claw, he's got the Urty Syringe, he's got the Cyborg body, he's got the Dots tools, 1 scalpel short of a med pack, and he's got the Sawbones rule. So plenty of nice rules there, and he can regain, and he can heal 2 wounds on units as well. Then you've got the Runt Herd, which is right here. Same power points cost, but he has been given an extra toughness now, and still comes equipped with a grabber stick. You got the Burner Boys, which again have had a bump in their toughness. They're now toughness 5, and unfortunately their burner weapon is only a ranged weapon. Such a shame. They've completely wiped out it being melee, which I always thought was excellent. In the first rules, it was like a power fist. I think it was like strength 8, or it was AP -3 or AP 3 back in those days. And now they've watered it down, and it's just a burner. It has had a buff in its range, and it's assault D6 now instead of just assault D3. But it would have been nice if it still had the close combat kind of a bit like a blowtorch or something like that. That would have been great. Then you've got a mech, which we had over here. Same power points cost, but has had a buff in its toughness. Everything else remains the same. You've got the custom Mega Slugger, which is still a pistol weapon, but it's had a bit of a buff. You've got pistol D3 instead of just a pistol 1, and you can still and he can still blow himself up. But that's a nice buff, having 3 shots of the strength 8 AP -3 weapon. Got the kill saw, which remains the same. And the Grot Oiler is located somewhere differently. He can still repair a friendly clan unit. You've got the Tank Busters to right here. They are the same points cost, but again, they've been given a bit of a buff with toughness 5. Everything else remains the same. You've still got the Bomb Squigs, and you've still got Tank Hunters. You've got Commandos, which have had a bit of a points increase. They're now power points cost of a 4, so double. They've become tougher at toughness 5, and they've been given other war gear. You've now got things like bomb squigs and distraction grots, and then all of these war gear options, which kind of sort of prepares them for the Kill Team Deathcore Kree kind of box set. You've got the cunning infiltrators, you've still got sneaky gits, and you've still got throat slitters. Mega-Nobs, they've had a brilliant buff here. Compared to the 8th edition, They are the same points cost, but they are faster now. Instead of a paltry 4-inch movement speed, they've now got a 5-inch movement speed. They're tougher at toughness 5, and they've been given a better leadership. Still, there's no difference between a Mega-Nob and a boss Mega-Nob. I was going to say a Mega-Nob Nob then, but there we go, too many knobs. The weapons, again, have been given a buff. You know, the combi rocket has got this new heavy D3 and blast rule. The Scorcher weapon has been given a buff to 12 inches. And the custom shooter now has the potential of having 6 shots in close range. The kill saw works the same as it did before, and that's incredible with that AP -4. And the power claw, instead of it being damage D3, it's actually a solid straight up damage 2. Because of the increase in speed and the toughness and the way the weapons worked, I've actually gone out and bought some Mega-Nobs, so you'll probably see an unboxing and review of them at some point soon. Then you've got the knobs. Now, the way it's worked out is the knobs were on the previous page. They've actually had a little bit of a price decrease. Their toughness, of course, has been increased, and their leadership has been increased too, and obviously their weapons work a little bit differently. You've got shock jump dragsters then, so we're into the fast attack. They've had a bit of a power points cost reduction. The shock rifle works the same. The rocket launcher has had that buff, so it's now damage D3, and it's got the blast rule. And the saw blades, the melee weapon, has had a buff all round. It's had a strength +2, so you now got strength 7. It's AP -2 and a damage 2. So it's a lot more capable now, these buggies, than they were in the older book. You've got the Snaz Wagon, where the mech special has been given the DACA rule and an extra 6 inches. An extra 6 inches makes all the difference. And it's been given an extra 6 inches, so it's 30-inch range, DACA 14 now, and it's also been given a damage of 2. So that is a decent upgrade for the same power points cost. Unfortunately, the burner bottles have had a decrease. They're now 2D3 and they used to be 2D6. That would have been fantastic if they kept the same. You still got the riding shotgun rule. You still got billowing fumes. The rest of the buggies, you've got war bikes. You've got war bikers, which have been given an extra wound now. They've now got 3 wounds each. But they've also been given this cloud of smoke rule, which is amazing. They've now got you've now got to subtract 1 from the hit roll to hit them, and I always thought that they should have had a rule like that. You've got the custom booster blasters right here. They've had a little bit of a points decrease and an increase in leadership. The burner exhaust now is an assault D6, and it was assault D3. The rivet cannon is better. It's the same range, but it's got the DACA rule now. So you've got 9 shots or 6, so it's been given an extra 3 shots at half range. And you've got all the rest of the abilities. Knob on a Smasher Squig, so this is a brand new unit right here. It seems a bit odd to have this unit in amongst all the bikers and buggies. I would have preferred all the buggies, in order, but there we go. So this knob on Smasher Squig, which comes in the Snaggas Orcs army set, it's got the Smasher Squig jaws, it's got a big chopper, it's got a Smasher Ed, whereby on a 4+, the enemy suffers a mortal wound, and it's got the Squig boss rule. Then the Rooker Truck Squig buggy has had a massive power points decrease. It's now only a 5, and it used to be a 7. It's still one of the slowest at 10-inch movement speed, but has had an increase of a better leadership. The heavy squig launcher, you don't have different types of squigs anymore. They're more in the custom job section of the book. But so now straight up, you've got the heavy squig launcher, which works the same as just the bile squig, but it is AP -2 and damage 2. It's a blast weapon and it doesn't need line of sight, so it is a bit of a trade-off there. Then you've got a smaller squig launcher, which again is a blast weapon. So they've changed like the different strengths and APs to just give it strength 5, AP -2, damage 2, and you don't need a blast weapon, and you don't need a line of sight. You've still got the squig mine as well, and you've got riding shotgun and grot runner. You've got the Megatrack scrap jets. Same power points cost. Everything else remains the same for them. They're still quite slow again at 10 inches. The rocket cannon, of course, has had a buff. It used to be Assault 2d3, it's now Heavy 3d3, and it gets that all-important blast rule. The wing missiles work exactly as they did before. And then you've got Storm Boys, which I think we have to move a couple of pages. Yeah, there we go. Same power points cost, but they've had the buff in their toughness, so they've got a toughness 5 now. Same number of attacks, same 6+ save. Sluggers and choppers do the same things. They've got the full throttle rule and they've got Storm Strike rule. Squig Hog Boys, this is a brand new unit right here. Again, work a little bit like that Nob on Smasher Squig, but they've also got this Bomb Squig. I'll be going into more detail about them in their upcoming review soon. Death Copters, so you can see just how many fast attack. I mean, they've almost got more fast attack than Eldar now. You've got 1, 2, you've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 fast attack in the old new Orc Codex. Death Copters, fantastic to see these back in the Codex. They have had a bit of an overhaul. They're the same movement speed, same weapon skill and ballistic skill, same strength, same toughness even, same wounds, same attack, same leadership, and same save. But what I'm talking about is it's now power points cost of an 8 for 3 of them, whereas before it was only a power points cost of a 2, so you could get 3 for 6 power points cost. However, their rockets have changed, the missiles have changed, they've got new weapons. They have specific rockets for them now. So they've got this Copter rockets, 24-inch range, heavy 2d3, so you can potentially get 6 shots, strength 8, AP -2, damage 3, and a blast. That absolutely trumps what their previous rules were. They only had Assault 2 for them, and obviously with a ballistic skill of 5+, yeah, you took your 3 Copters and you're lucky if a couple of strength 8 shots hit at 24-inch range, and then they were very vulnerable to other units. They've also got this, one of them can have this custom Mega Blaster, which you couldn't have before, which is a nice 24-inch range, Assault D3, Strength 8, AP -3, a damage D6, and it's a blast weapon as well. It's like a plasma weapon, so it can blow up the user. You've got the spinning blades, which they had before, but this time they've been given an arm penetration of -1. Instead of making D3 hit rolls, you're now making 3 hit rolls with each attack. So you've now definitely got 6 attacks with those spinning blades, and they've got that better armor penetration. One of them can have that big bomb as well, which is fantastic. Draw a line, and then you've got on a 50-50 chance, you've got a 4+ chance of the unit suffering D3 mortal wounds. So it just makes them much more dangerous, much more viable. Again, I would have. They've also got a new rule called swooping down, which is a bit like scouting ahead. They've got the big red button, which replaces turbo boost. I still would have liked, you know, some kind of Ride of the Valkyrie or Dust Storm or something to give them a, you know, a cheeky invulnerable 6+ save or 5+ save or something. That would just make them, well, maybe OP, but there we go. Then you've got heavy support. You've got the mech gun here, which has been given a massive buff. Maybe they're quite expensive. I think they're like £30 per model, so they want to sell a few more, I guess. But the big buff in this has been the Bubble Chucker. It's now got 3 different weapon profiles. You've got the Big Bubble, Wobbly Bubble, and Dense Bubble. They all sound fantastic. They're all 48-inch range, the same range as the Bubble Chucker from before, but they work a little bit like a conversion beamer in that you get less shots the further, I say further range you go. They're all the same range, but you can opt to have one-shot strength 10, AP -4, damage D3+3, probably one of the strongest range weapons in the Orc arsenal there, that Bubble Chucker weapon. The custom Mega Cannon has been given the blast rule and obviously works the same as it did before. The Smasher gun has been given a bit of a buff. It's got the blast rule, and instead of the strength, instead of rolling 2d6 and beating the toughness, you've now got a straight up strength 8. And then you've got the tractor cannon, which has been given a bit of a buff because it's now got damage d3 plus 3 instead of just damage 6. And they've changed the way it affects certain targets. But pretty much, you know, mech guns are strength 8 minimum, and potentially strength 10 if you're using the bubble chucker. So if you see like 3 of these mech guns on the battlefield, try and take them out as soon as you can, because they're all going to be sort of 48-inch rated unless they're equipped with those mega cannons, those custom mega cannons. Another heavy support, you've got the battle wagon. That's the same power points cost. It looks different in its profile from what it had before, but it is in fact exactly the same. The weapons are slightly different. The zap gun works differently. The death roller works a bit differently. It's hitting on a 2+, whereas before you were getting more attacks with it. You've got grabbing claws, wrecking balls, hard cases. It can still transport 20 orcs. You've got the bone breaker, which has the wrecking ball on it, and the lobber. It has the wrecking ball on it. It has the death roller, so it's a specific one. Whereas before, the bone breaker was a little bit cheaper. Then you've got the final one, which is the gun wagon, which will go back there. It's a little bit more expensive again. The kill cannon works exactly the same, but it's now been given that blast rule. This is the main changes, really. Things have been improved in toughness, or they've been given that blast rule, or the flamers have been increased, or they've been given the Dakar rule as well. It can still carry 12 orc models. Then you've got killer cans. This is a little bit different as well. You're now paying straight up 7 power points cost for 3, whereas before it was 2, and you could just take 1 if you wished. So that means you're going to go for 6. So they have had a bit of a points increase. However, their weapon skill has improved. They're now 4+ weapon skill, which is incredible for, you know, grot manned dreadnoughts. Everything else remains the same, but of course the shooters have got the Dakar rule. The grot zookers have been given the blast rule, and the scorchers are a bit further. They've got the new ramshackle rule as well, and the scrag 'em and explodes and so on. Then you've got looters. I'm not sure why it didn't go on to Death Dread straight away, but looters are a bit after the Morkanaut and Gorkanaut. But the looters have had that buff with the toughness. They're now toughness 5. The custom Mega Blaster has obviously had that buff of Assault D3 instead of Assault 1. And the Death Guns, you'll be pleased to know, have had a slight buff in that they're now Dakar rule. They're 3 shots or 2 shots at full range. You've got Death Dreads, so we go back to this page, and the Death Dreads are a little bit more pricey, but they have been given an extra attack finally. They've got 3 attacks, and their weapons have slightly changed. Then we've got a brand new unit, the Kill Rig. Power points cost of a 10. I'll go through its review closer to the time, but you've got a whir tower, you can put a whir boy on there. Then you've got the Flash Gits, which have had their buff to a toughness 5. And their leadership is now a 7. It was a 6 before. The Snaz guns unfortunately remain exactly the same, so they're still the 24-inch range, heavy 3, strength 6, AP -2 and a damage of 2. They still get the ammo runs, they still get the Git Finder squigs, but they don't have some incredible amazing rules. I think they must have missed the rules for Flash Git somewhere, because they've run out of the gun crazy show-offs. Where they can immediately shoot again. They can no longer do that, which absolutely sucks. That is the main rule that they've missed out on, unfortunately, and for the same points cost. Hunter Rig is another new unit. This time it can transport 15 Beast Snagger models. It just doesn't have the whir tower on it. And then transport, you've got Truck. Truck has actually gone up in price slightly for exactly the same stat line as it was before, but it does get the ramshackle rule. And it can still carry 12 Flash Git models. Burner Bomber. So we're straight into flyers here. A Burner Bomber works exactly the same as it did before. However, the Scorcher missile racks have been given an extra 12 inches, so they're now 36-inch range, and they've had a massive buff of a strength 6 and armor penetration of -2. Super shooters work differently now. They've got the DACA rule, so you've got a stack of 6 or a DACA 4, but the AP and the damage works the same. And of course, the twin big shooters also have the DACA rule, but instead of you getting 6 shots, you're getting DACA 10 or 6 shots. You've got the ramshackle rule, and then you've got airborne. The DACA jet is a little bit more pricey, but of course you can have all those super shooters with those 6 shots now. The Blitzer bomber is a bit more pricey too, but can now move at the same speed as its brethren, and it's the same for the Burner Bomber. They can all move 60 inches now, whereas before they were limited up to 50 inches. Not that that makes a huge difference, but it is a change. There are changes to the big shooters and the super shooters, and there's the boom bomb as well. Wazbomb blaster jet, that has had a bit of a price increase, but fantastically its ballistic skill is now 4+, so really worth taking for that ballistic skill 4+, because you're not going to want to miss out on the extra blast rules that the Smasher gun has been provided with. And the teleport Mega Blaster is now Assault D6, whereas it was previously Assault 3. It's also been given a whopping Strength 9 and a Damage D3 +3 plus the blast rule. So the teleport Mega Blaster is fantastic. The Wazbomb Mega Cannon has also had a huge upgrade. It's still the same range and number of shots, but it's now a Strength 10. I mean, that's fantastic. And remember, the Wazbomb Blaster Jet has that 5+ invulnerable save for friendly Orc aircraft units within 9 inches. Works the same as the custom force field from before. You got Mega-Nobs in Lord of War. I know this is strange even for me. It is odd having the Mega-Nob and Gorkanaut in Lord of War areas, in the Lord of War sections, but they have had a decent buff. You know, they feel much more like Lord of Wars now. Before they only had 18 wounds, now they have 24. Their weapons have been buffed. I mean, obviously you're getting more shots with the Mega Blaster and the custom Mega Zapper. The custom Mega Zapper has remained exactly the same, but the Mega Blaster has now got Assault D3. The close combat weapons work exactly the same, and it's got that invulnerable force field, and it can still transport 6 flash kits models. The Gorkanaut now gets 5 attacks though. That's the big change there. Still got the 24 wounds, and the other big change is to its main weapon, the Deathstorm Mega Shooter. It used to, I say only, get 18 shots. It now, with the DACA rule, can get a minimum of 20 shots at 36-inch range, but half the range. You can now pump out 30 shots. And then final Lord of War is the Stomper Super. What's changed with the Stomper? Well, it's much cheaper. It's only a power points cost of a 34 now, which I think you know, more people will take one, as opposed to previously it was a whopping 46 power points. The rules itself, it's become a bit slower at 10 inches as opposed to 12 inches. The rest of its start line is exactly the same, but of course you've had some big changes to its weapons. You know, the big shooter's got the DACA rule, the Def Cannon is the same, but it's got the blast rule. The Scorcher is, you know, further range. The Super Gatler has had a massive buff. It's now DACA rule of 24 or 16 shots. Super Rockets used to have the rule of being fired once per battle. Now it seems you can fire them as many times as possible because it just says Super Rockets. So they're, you know, devastating. You know, if you're playing a ranged battle, you really want like a Wazbomb Blaster Jet, and you really want one of these Stompers with 100-inch range for these Super Rockets. And then you've got the Mega Chopper, which has had a buff to the amount of damage. It's now damage 9 as opposed to damage 6, and even its slash attack has got a damage 3 instead of D3. Remember, you can also carry 20 flash kits models in your Stomper, so I think the Stomper has had a very decent buff. You've got the Mech Boy Workshop here, which is the same power points cost, and I think it works pretty much as it did before. You've just got slight changes to the wording, and then you've got a brand new fortification, the Big Ed Boss Bunker. It's fantastic. You can fit 10 flash kits in there. It's short range bunker, but it's a nice area effect model, and it's got the shouting pole, and I'd put some flash kits in there or looters in there and have some fun. So there you go. As you can see, orcs have become better. Will they be the new meta? I don't know about that, but they are certainly faster. You know, they're getting faster. They're more fast attack choices. There's much more choice in the HQ. Everything's become tougher. The weapons have become better. There's more invulnerable saves. Things make a lot more sense, but at the same time, they've lost a bit of fun. You know, I liked having fun with orcs. Now they've become a bit more serious. I think Games Workshop's trying to hide that a little bit by having all these squigs and things in the army. But I hope that in the next iteration they become a bit more random. But overall, I'm very, very happy. Certainly a massive improvement than 7th edition was from 6th. I'm very happy with all the new units. I think they work very well. I'd like to see more big stompy mech type things. I'd like to see more transports, like flying transports, like shin orcs and things like that. And also more love for grots, like grot tanks. I mean, I know Forge will do them, but I'd like to see various aspects of this army explored deeper. But that's all the main changes and differences in the brand new codex. I thought I'd do this comparison video. This is now running at over an hour, so I would very much appreciate if you could leave a like and a comment, subscribe, use the Element Games affiliate link, which really does help the channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. For Gork and Mork.